Helfried Weidung did not want to be here. March 1985, standing outside Westfalenhalle Dortmund. 15,000 people streaming into the arena, all here to see his son perform. His son who he'd told repeatedly to get a real job, to stop wasting time on music, to be practical, sensible, realistic. And here these people were, thousands of them, paying money, traveling from across Germany, all to see Thomas, to hear him sing. Helfried's friends had dragged him here. Literally, Werner and Klaus. They'd shown up at his house 3 hours earlier with determination in their eyes. "You're coming tonight, no arguments. I don't want to, I've made my position clear. We don't care what your position is. Your son is performing for 15,000 people. You're going to watch, you're going to see what you've been refusing to see for 2 years. He knows I don't approve. It would be hypocritical to go now. Then it's time to stop being a hypocrite and start being a father." The words had stung, but Werner and Klaus hadn't backed down. They'd driven him here, Dortmund, 2 hours from home. Helfried had sat in the back seat, silent, stubborn, arms crossed, convinced this was a waste of time, that he was right about Thomas, that music was a phase, a hobby, not a career. Not something a grown man built a life on. The arena loomed, massive, lights, banners, modern talking sold out. His son's name on a banner, 15,000 tickets sold. Werner parked. They walked toward the entrance. The crowd was young, excited, energetic, girls screaming, boys trying to look cool, everyone talking about the show, about Thomas, about the songs. Helfried felt out of place, old, judgmental, wrong, but he pushed the feeling down, kept his certainty. His son had made a mistake. All these people were just enabling it. Helfried's generation had learned one lesson: be practical. Post-war Germany had taught them that dreams were luxuries. Music was a hobby, not a career. He'd been a technician, steady work, good pension. He'd wanted the same security for his son. But Thomas had chosen music, chosen uncertainty. For 2 years, Helfried had refused to acknowledge his son's success, refused to attend concerts, refused to admit he might be wrong. "You're being an idiot," Werner had said a week earlier. "Your son is on national television, making thousands of people happy. You need to see this," Klaus had added. That's how Helfried ended up here, forced by friends, certain this would prove nothing. They went inside. The arena was massive. Helfried had never been in a venue this size. The ceiling seemed miles high. The stage was enormous, lights everywhere, sound equipment, screens, professional, expensive, serious, not a hobby, not a phase. This was real infrastructure, real investment, real business. The seats filled quickly. 15,000 people. Helfried counted sections. Tried to visualize the number, failed. It was just a sea of humanity, all here for his son. Werner sat next to him, Klaus on the other side, creating a buffer, making sure Helfried didn't leave. "Impressive, isn't it?" Werner said. Helfried grunted, non-committal. The lights dimmed. The crowd erupted. 15,000. People screaming in anticipation. Helfried felt the sound in his chest. Physical, overwhelming. The stage lights came up. Music started, electronic, modern, not Helfried's taste, but professional, polished. The crowd was on their feet already. And then Thomas walked out. Helfried saw his son, on stage, in front of 15,000 people, confident, professional, in control. Thomas wore a white suit, stage presence perfect. He walked to center stage. Raised his hand, the crowd screamed louder. Thomas smiled, genuine, happy. He belonged there, completely, naturally, like this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Something shifted in Helfried's chest, small, uncomfortable. His son, his burned, who he'd told to get a real job, was here, owning this stage, commanding this crowd, looking like he'd been born to do this. The music built, synthesizers and drums creating that distinctive modern talking sound. Thomas started singing, "You're my heart, you're my soul." His voice clear and powerful. The crowd sang along, every single word. 15,000 people, singing his son's song, moving as one organism. Thomas's voice filled the arena, not just good, exceptional, professional, polished, years of training evident in every note. Helfried had heard him sing before, at home, in church, at family gatherings when Thomas was young. But this was different. This wasn't casual singing. This was performance, artistry, craft mastered through dedication. Thomas moved across the stage with confidence, worked the crowd, made eye contact with different sections, every movement deliberate, choreographed, professional. He knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a fluke that would fade. This was skill, real skill, the kind that required years of work. the kind of dedication Helfried had always valued, had always told Thomas to apply to a real career, to something practical. And here it was, applied to this, to music, to performance, to making 15,000 people forget their problems for 90 minutes. The chorus hit, the crowd jumped, moved as one unified force, arms in the air, voices raised. 15,000 people connected by his son's music, by words Thomas had learned and perfected, by melodies Dieter had crafted, by a collaboration that had created something bigger than either of them alone. Helfried watched his son command this moment, this massive, overwhelming moment, with ease, with genuine joy, with the kind of competence that only comes from mastering your craft, and something broke inside him. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, just a quiet, undeniable cracking, a defense mechanism falling away, an admission forcing its way through decades of certainty and pride. He'd been wrong, completely, utterly wrong, about music, about Thomas's choice, about what constituted a real career, about what truly mattered in life. These 15,000 people weren't here by accident, weren't here because of luck or timing or a fluke. They were here because Thomas had worked, had dedicated himself completely, had developed genuine, undeniable skill, had created something valuable, something that made people happy, that connected with them emotionally. That meant something real to them. What was more legitimate than that? What was more valuable than bringing this much joy to this many people? Than creating art that resonated across borders and generations? Than building something that would outlast all of them? Helfried felt tears forming, unexpected, unwanted. He tried to force them back, failed. Werner noticed, put a hand on his shoulder. The song continued, Thomas's voice soaring, and Helfried Weidung cried. Cried for the years he'd dismissed his son's dream, cried for being so certain when he'd been so completely wrong. Thomas couldn't see him, too far away, but Helfried saw Thomas fully, for the first time in years, saw not the boy who'd disappointed him, but the man who'd succeeded by following his passion. The song ended, the crowd erupted. Thomas bowed, smiled, genuinely grateful, not arrogant, just happy, happy to be here, happy to share this. The show continued, song after song, each met with the same enthusiasm. Thomas never flagged, never lost the crowd. This wasn't a kid playing at being a star, this was a professional. An hour into the show, Werner leaned over, still think he made a mistake. Helfried shook his head, couldn't speak, the tears hadn't stopped. Klaus offered a handkerchief. Werner and Klaus exchanged a look, mission accomplished. The show ended after 90 minutes, 3 encores. The crowd didn't want it to end. Finally, Thomas took his final bow, left the stage. 15,000 people filed out, still singing, still energized. Helfried sat, needed a moment. Finally he spoke. I need to see him. You sure? Werner asked. I need to apologize. They made their way backstage. Werner had connections, had planned this, had arranged access, just in case, hoping this moment would come. Security checked credentials, let them through. The backstage area was controlled chaos, crew moving equipment, people congratulating each other, the energy of a successful show. Werner led them to a door, knocked. A voice called out, "Come in." They entered. Thomas was sitting on a couch, still in his stage clothes, talking with Dieter, planning tomorrow's show. He looked up, saw Werner and Klaus, smiled, then saw Helfried. The smile faded, replaced by something complicated. Surprise, uncertainty, maybe hope. Dad, hello, Thomas. The room went quiet. Dieter looked between them, sensed this. Important, private, I'll give you guys a minute. He left. Werner and Klaus followed, closed the door. Thomas and Helfried alone, father and son, 2 years of distance between them. Thomas stood, uncertain. You came. Werner and Klaus brought me. I didn't think you'd ever. I didn't think I would either. Silence, heavy, full of everything unsaid. Finally, Helfried spoke. I was wrong. Thomas stared. About the music, about your career. About everything, I was wrong. Dad, let me finish, please. Thomas nodded. Helfried took a breath, gathering courage. I thought music wasn't a real career, thought you were making a mistake, thought you should do what I did. Steady job, practical, safe. I thought I knew better, that my experience meant I understood how. The world worked and you didn't, but I didn't understand. I didn't understand that the world had changed. That what worked for me wasn't the only way. That following passion, developing real talent, building something that brings joy to thousands of people, that's as real as anything I ever did. More real, maybe. His voice grew stronger. I saw you up there tonight, saw 15,000 people, saw how professional you are, how good you are, how much this matters to them. And I realized I'd been wrong about everything. Wrong to dismiss you, wrong to refuse to support you, wrong to let my pride keep me from seeing what you'd built. I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago. Should have been there from the beginning, and I'm sorry for all of it, for the distance, for the judgment, for making you feel like you had to prove something to me. You didn't. You never did. Thomas didn't speak, couldn't. Tears were streaming down his face now, the validation he'd wanted, needed, for so long, finally here, finally real. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately, Helfried continued, his voice thick with emotion. I know I hurt you. Know the distance I created was real and painful. Know I wasn't the father you needed or deserved during the most important years of your career. But if you'll let me, if you can find it in yourself to give me another chance, I'd like to try to be better, to support you the way I should have from the beginning, to actually be there for you, to see what you're building instead of dismissing it, to be proud publicly, not just privately, to be the father you deserved all along. Thomas crossed the small dressing room in 2 steps, hugged his father, hard, desperately, like he'd been waiting years for this moment. Helfried hugged back just as tightly, both men crying now, years of hurt and pride and misunderstanding dissolving, not completely, not instantly. Healing doesn't work that way, but beginning to, starting to close the wound that had been open for so long. I wanted you to be proud, Thomas said, his voice muffled against Helfried's shoulder. I wanted you to see that I wasn't wasting my life, that I was building something real. I see it now, and I'm so sorry it took this long. They stood there, father and son, backstage at a sold-out arena, finally on the same side, finally understanding each other, finally closing the distance pride had created, when they finally separated both. Were exhausted, emotionally drained, but lighter somehow, freer, the weight of their conflict finally beginning to lift. Will you come to another show? Thomas asked, his voice still shaky. Yes, all of them if you'll let me. I want to be there. I want to see every performance I missed, want to make up for lost time. I'd like that, I'd really like that. Helfried smiled, genuine, warm, the first real smile he'd given Thomas in 2 long years. Your mother is going to kill me for taking this long to come around. Thomas laughed through his tears. She tried to tell you, she's been telling you for years. She did, and I should have listened to her, should have listened to you, should have opened my eyes instead of keeping them shut out of stubbornness. We don't have to tell her, you finally admitted she was right. She'll know anyway, she always knows. That woman has never let me get away with anything. Werner and Klaus were waiting outside, saw the 2 men emerge, saw the changed energy between them. Werner nodded, satisfied. Klaus smiled, mission accomplished. Helfried turned to them. Thank you for forcing me to come, for making me see what I was too stubborn to see on my own. That's what friends are for, Werner said, forcing you to not be an idiot. They drove back together, the 3 men in Werner's car, Helfried in better spirits than he'd been in years, actually talking, actually engaged, telling them about specific moments from the show, about Thomas's stage presence, about the professionalism of the production, about the sheer size and enthusiasm of the crowd. Werner and Klaus exchanged knowing looks in the front seat. This was the Helfried they remembered, before pride had made him rigid and defensive, before fear of being wrong had made him judgmental and distant, before stubbornness had cost him 2 years of his son's success. The drive home felt shorter than the drive there. Perspective had changed everything. Helfried got out at his house, turned to his friends before going inside. I owe you both, significantly, for not letting me stay home. For forcing me to see what I'd been refusing to see. That's what friends are for, Werner said with a knowing smile. Forcing you to not be an idiot when you're being an idiot. Just be there for your son from now on, Klaus added. That's all the payment we need. Helfried went inside. His wife was still awake, reading in the living room. She looked up, saw his face. You went, they made me, and I was wrong about everything. You were right. She smiled, knowing, I'm glad you finally see it. I should have listened to you years ago. Yes, you should have, but you're here now, that's what matters. Helfried sat down, told her about the show, about the crowd, about seeing Thomas on stage, about the realization that had broken through his certainty, about the conversation backstage. She listened. Didn't say I told you so, didn't need to, just reached over, took his hand, squeezed. From that night forward, Helfried became Thomas's biggest supporter, attended every show, watched every TV appearance. When Modern Talking broke up in 1987, he was there, supporting Thomas. The distance was gone. Years later, Helfried would get emotional talking about that night. That was the night I stopped being an obstacle and started being a father. The night I realized my job wasn't to make my son follow my path. It was to support him in finding his own. Thomas would say, having my father there, hearing him say he was proud, that meant more than any chart position. closed a wound I'd been carrying for years, made me feel seen. That's what every child wants, to be understood. To be supported in who they actually are. The story became family legend. The night Grandpa finally saw the light, Helfried would laugh, and I'm grateful every day that I was forced to see what I'd been refusing to acknowledge. That night in Dortmund, March 1985, a father watched his son perform and cried, not because his son had failed, but because he'd succeeded beyond anything Helfried had imagined, and in seeing it, Helfried learned what it meant to truly support his child. The moment he stopped being right and started being present.